Hello everyone, welcome to my channel TechieTaught, and today we'll discuss about very interesting topic, Spring security or Spring Boot security or application security, web application security, whatever you can say. And this is pretty interesting topic and also very confusing because there are lots of terminologies you should know before starting coding on the Spring security or before starting uh, the implementation in your application. So there are lots of jargons which actually makes us confused. Hope you are all are doing good. So let's get started. So what is Spring security, right? So Spring security, you can see it's a powerful and highly customizable authentication and authorization framework. So Spring security is a authentication and authorization framework, right? And so when you will talk about security, it is of two types, okay? Authentication and authorization. So without authentication and authorization, you cannot provide security to your application. So Spring security consists of these two major, you can say the terminology. Okay, it starts with authentication and authorization, or it also you can say as access control. So access control is same as authorization. So there is again two different jargons you can say, right? Access control, authorization. So both are same. Similarly, authentication or identity check, right? So in the our day-to-day activities, when we are moving to going to suppose office or going to bank or going to the passport office, wherever, right? The like security has to check, right, our identity. Okay, who are you? Okay, show me your identity proof, right? We have to show our Aadhaar card or our PAN card, right? Or voter ID or passport, something. So that is our identification verification, identity verification, sorry. And that is nothing but authentication. So we should understand in that way, very layman term. Okay, and the next is it is the de facto standard. So Spring security is the de facto standard for securing our Spring based applications, and it also focuses on providing both authentication and authorization to Java application. So because security means authentication and authorization, identity verification as well as access or permission checking or permission verification. So that is broadly is security. Okay. So again with layman definition, what is authentication? Simple. Who are you? Right. So it's a simple layman term, simple English. Authentication means who are you? So then what you have to say? You have to introduce yourself, then you have to prove yourself by showing some identity proof. So that is authentication. So hope the first level, the first terminology you can say in this Spring security is clear. Okay, and then we'll come to authorization. So I will discuss more in depth authorization in the consequent part, but just for definition, if someone will ask what is authorization, you can say authorization is nothing but access control, or authorization is nothing but giving set of permissions. Okay, or in simple English statement, if you can see, if you can define, it is what are you allowed to do. Okay, so first we are asking who are you, and then the next question is what kind of task you can execute or you want to execute. Okay, or what you are expecting to do. Okay, what are you allowed to do here? So based upon that, the authority who can has that authority to provide the permission or provide the access. For example, admin, when you are going to any office or you are a new joiner, right? You went to your office, and then for the first day the security will ask you regarding your identification, and once it is authenticated, so it will give you a temporary badge or temporary access card or ID card, right? So that has a very basic privileges or very basic permissions or roles are associated. right? So with that, you cannot perform or even you cannot access your workstation. Okay, so you can go to up to receptionist area, then someone will come and who has the valid uh, access, right? They can guide you. So then based upon your onboarding process, then you will get your access card, okay, or ID card. So that has full permission, or as per your job or roles, it has some additional roles or privileges. So that is called authorization. You're authorized to do something. Okay, you are authorized to enter somewhere. Okay, so that is authorization. Is nothing but set up roles or permissions or access. Simple. So hope this definition is clear to all of you. Then we'll go to the next page. You can see here. So there are few core concepts, okay, related to Spring Security. So these three are the building blocks of Spring Security, very commonly used. And if you know about these six core concepts, these six core jargons, you can say, or terminologies, then it will be very easy to learn in depth. So authentication we have already discussed, right? Authorization also we have discussed a little bit, okay? And now I want to discuss more about security filters or authority or principle or roles, because in today's session it is only limited to authentication. So I will mainly focus on authentication. Then we will discuss about authentication, right? So authentication, as I said, who are you? Okay, so that is the simple layman English term, okay, and which actually defines authentication, and you will find it useful. And as the name says, the Spring security filters will ask this question to authenticate you before allowing access to the application, right? So similarly, the same who are you or like identity verification process, okay, it is also applicable to our application. So in we are building our application, right, with the Spring Boot based applications, and the same fondant will be applied here. So our applications, the security filters as we discussed, right? So when request came, that security filter will intercept and it will check what kind of resource this request is trying to access. If the request is trying to access sensitive information or a secured information, then the security filter will ask, who are you? Or show me or proof, provide the proof actually, who are you? You have to show your identity proof. But in application, how will show your identity proof, right? So for that, the security filter, what it will do? It will redirect a login form to you. So it's a simple form-based authentication. Okay, it will ask, it will redirect a login form where you have to pass your username and password followed by a login button. So you have to click on that. So then what will happen? The security filter, it will verify what kind of username and password you are providing. If that is a correct username and password, then the security filter will verify, yeah, you are a right user. So you are authenticated now. Okay, so then it will allow you to access the resource, because here we are not talking about authorization. So authentication and authorization they cannot stay apart. So when there is a authentication, that should be authorization by default. Okay, so like in the fun part, right? Like a Tom and Jerry, right? I think everyone is clear. Everyone likes Tom and Jerry, right? So you'll find Tom cannot stay alone without Jerry, or similarly, Jerry also cannot stay alone. Okay, without Tom, Jerry also feel boring because they used to do some fun activity, right? So like that, this authentication and authorization, these two terms can stay apart. Okay, it will distinguish these two terms, right? Even though those are not same. Okay, definition wise or the functionality wise, both are different, but they will stay together. So when we'll talk about Spring security, both authentication and authorization is required. So it's kind of a Tom and Jerry, right? So authentication and authorization are in fact two different things that work together as a complete solution. So authentication and authorization are in fact two different things, but that work together as a complete solution. Okay. If you distinguish, means if you what if you use authentication, you will know I don't want to use authorization. You cannot segregate these two things. Okay. So anyhow, these two things are there. Okay. So here in this definition, so once you will provide your login credentials, right? So you are providing for authentication, but the Spring security, what it is checking? So it is checking your authentication, checking your identification. But if your identification is success, then it is allowing you, it is authorized you to access the resource. See, the authorization term came. So it is authorized to authorize the particular user, the logged in user, to access a particular resource. Okay, even though there is no specific authorization implementation is there, but by default, if there is no authorization implementation, or there is, it's not that kind of secure resource, there is no particular role or scope required. So with this particular login information, simple basic authentication, HTTP basic authentication, with that you are authorized to access your resources. I think, hope the terminology is clear, right? So authentication means with this authentication you are authorized. So you cannot like a you cannot apart these two terminologies. Okay, and then we'll go with the definition. As a user, you should pass your login credentials to disclose your identity, and post successful verification, Spring security will allow you access the application. Hope the definition is clear. There are three types of authentication. Okay. So how many types of authentication? Three types of authentication we have. What are those? One is knowledge-based authentication. Second one is possession-based authentication. Third one is inherence-based authentication. These three: knowledge-based, possession-based, inherence-based authentication. So how many types of authentication we have? Three. Please remember: knowledge-based, possession-based, and inherence-based authentication. I repeated three times also. And what is knowledge base? So knowledge base, for example, so when Spring Security Filter provides the user a login form, it prompts username and password. And as a user, as a human, right, we know what is the username and password. We remember that, right? That means it's a knowledge base. We have the knowledge about this username or password. Okay, so that's why we are saying it's a knowledge-based authentication. So simple form-based authentication is nothing but a knowledge-based authentication. Simple. Second one is if you will implement two-way authentication, or little bit we can implement in a stricter way, because nowadays lots of scams are happening, right? So we can implement little uh, more secure, more harder. Okay, so the second one is possession based authentication. So it is basically a two-way authentication, right? Possession based authentication, what is that? Which we own it, or we have it physically, you can say, like a mobile phone, email address, or a secure token we used to get in older days. I remember in my initial days I used to get one secure token we used to carry. I don't know whether it is still like used. might be used, but I have not used that for a long time. It's all now sub token, you can say. There is no physical token much used. And then our example access card, right? So those we have it, right? Physically we have it. So, or maybe the sub copy, or the email or sub token, that also we have it, right? We are not remembering that, because that is dynamic. The OTP is dynamic. The secure token, the whatever token it will generate, that is dynamic, right? So that means a possession based authentication. Hope this terminology is clear. Then the third one is inherence based authentication. So that is again in the mobile phone you used to see the fingerprint or your face recognitions. So this kind of identity verification is called as inherence based authentication. So if you'll club all these things, right, it will be a pretty harder authentication mechanism. So hope authentication is clear with all these simple definitions. If you like it, please provide your comment and subscribe as well, so that we will come with very good content with very good examples. And this one, I just prepared as per my understanding. Uh, it can be also little simplified, but I tried to simplify it. It looks very simple also. So first you can say the user. So user is, for example, you or me, someone is trying to access application, web application, right? You can say the right side is the web application, okay? And in this web application, we have implemented or we have integrated Spring Security. So once we'll integrate Spring Security, right, then the Spring Security filter will come to picture. So these are the resources. Okay, all these endpoints are nothing but resources. So resources are nothing but your, like in your REST-based applications, your microservice-based applications. So resources is nothing but your endpoints. Authorized resources, you can say printer, scanner, or any physical device you are trying to access. Those are resources, right? But in simple term, because we are building REST-based applications, so all these endpoints, so those are secure resources. And if you want to secure those, so we can integrate Spring Security into our web application. So when you will integrate, right, then the Spring Security filters will come to picture. So there are again many layers of Spring Security filter, right? So here I have just shown one. So it depends upon what kind of security filter we are using. So that kind of security filter will intercept our request. So for example, right? So when you are accessing your company's website or maybe a bank application or any secured application, so when you hit the URL, so that URL will first intercepted by Spring Security filter. So that's why this is the number one. This is the first call, right? And this call is intercepted by Spring Security filter, and it will check. And if it will find this user is trying to access some secured resources, then what it will do? It will restrict. It won't allow. It will say, hey, you are trying to access a restricted resource, and you are not providing who are you. So in that case, the Spring Security filter, it will redirect a login form or a to authenticate, right? Authentication form, login form, whatever you can say. The step two is redirect a login form, right? So when you'll get a login form, the user can provide username and password, because I am the user. I am trying to access my bank account, right? Or I am trying to access my company, some secure resource. So I should have the username or password to log in. So once I will pass that, that is knowledge-based authentication here, right? Knowledge-based. Three types of authentication: knowledge-based, possession-based, and inherence-based. So here We are talking about knowledge-based authentication, right? So once we'll pass username and password and we will submit our login form. So that is the third step. So then the Spring Security again intercept. It will check, it will validate what kind of username and password we are passing. So once successfully validated, right, then it will pass that request. So that is the four. It will pass that request to access our secured resources, right? So once we will access it, what this REST endpoints will do? It will return some results back to the user, right? So that is the response. So it is returning some results, and that response will come back through the security filters, and it will reach the user, right? So basically, this is the process it will happen in case of authentication. Okay, and hope authentication and authorization or principal, security filter, authority, roles, all this terminology, right? At least you heard something about this. And regarding authentication, I think it should be now theoretically at least it is clear. And the next part, I'll just show you like what are those security filters and how it is getting used in intercepting your request, right? So this is another picture and another diagram I like to show you. So as you say, uh, like as you see here, right? So this is our web application or uh, web application which is using the Spring Security, right? And these are the resources on your right hand side, all the endpoints. Okay, so it has now four different security filters, right? So when the request will come, so based upon uh, this request security filter configuration, your request will be intercepted by all these filters. Suppose you have used only one filter, so it will be intercepted by one. If you have four, then it will be intercepted by four, right? And like through these interceptors, now once all these filters, it will successfully verify your request, it will reach the resources or the endpoints to use it, right? So after using, it will send the response back, and then user can get it. So this is again security filters, right? But again, I will cover a security filter in my subsequent uh, videos. Okay. So now, as we have gone through theoretically all those, so it is now time to do some coding. So again, I'll show you once very simple implementation, but we'll again cover some in-depth implementation. Okay, in the second part. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you like it and comment if you like it also. Thank you.